So in today's class, let me check. Today's class, we are able to discuss. We are planning to discuss about the geophysical investigations. Okay. So what is the geophysical investigations? Generally, uh, generally what we do is without boring, without boring or digging a pit, we can do some investigation in the field. So that's what we are discussing about the soil exploration. Okay. So in this case, what we do is we just go to the site and we will carry with us some equipment that is maybe generating the shock waves and so on, and some geophones. So we will place those geophones and the shock waves, and we'll try to find out the velocity of a different, I mean at a velocity of a strata. So once you get that, so what is going to happen is we can find out the approximately the change of the strata. I mean, maybe initially it may be clay, after that sand, then maybe hard rock, and so on. So to find out these things, we will take the help of this geophysical investigation. So this is all about the geophysical investigation. So previously, what we have seen is uh, we have we have conducted some tests, maybe SPT test, cone penetration test, or in the pit plate load test. By applying the load and so on, we found the bearing capacities or correlation between the SPT and the CPT n values, and we are able to get the some parameters. Okay, so with the help of that parameter, again we can find out the bearing capacity of a foundations. Okay, or a settlement, I would say. So in this geophysical investigation, a number of geophysical are preliminary investigation. This is the preliminary investigation of a subsoil strata. The method can be used for locating the different strata and for rapid evolution of the subsoil characteristic. However, the method is very approximate. This is very approximate for a detailed and reliable investigation. The conventional method, like driving the holes, taking a sample, whether it may be disturbed, undisturbed sample, or laboratory testing is required. So this is just a approximate method, but very very famous. We are using this geophysical investigation very frequently. So very famous, and it is approximate also. Okay, sometimes it may go wrong also. So this particular method is divided into two categories. One is seismic method, and the second one is the electrical resistivity method. So in the seismic method, it is based on the principle that elastic shock waves have different velocity in different materials. At the interface of the two different materials, the waves get partially reflected and partially refracted. So what happens? Anyway, I'll show the pictures. So waves, when you generate a shock waves, okay. So some waves may be partially reflected and some may be refracted. So seismic methods of explosion utilize only refracted waves, okay. So with the help of the refracted waves, we can find out this the depth of the strata. The shock wave is created by using the hammer or by small explosion, okay, at the point P. Anyway, I will show that point P, okay. The shock waves travel through the top layer or a rock with a velocity of V1, some velocity I'm assuming, okay. And depending upon the type of the material, the observation of the first arrival of the waves is recorded by using the geophone. This is very important. Okay, and look at it at different points. And one more assumption what we do is, so these particular geophones located at various points like A, B, C. The geophones converts the ground vibration into electrical impulse and transmit them to a recording apparatus, which is not shown here. The basic equations of the refracted survey are derived based on the assumption that the velocity increases with the depth. That's all. In other words, it is assumed that V3 is more than the V2 in the figure. This is more important. So I'll go to next. Just so here what is happening is we are generating some impact here at the P, and these are the geophones. Some may be reflected some waves, some we are just focusing on the refracted waves. Okay, so what happens, we assume that this velocity V3 is greater than V2 greater than V1. So we assume that with the depth the velocities are increasing. With the depth the velocities are increasing. That's what our assumption is all about. Okay, so what you do is we can plot the graphs. Okay, this is the graph shown. So at the so here we will record it. I mean V1 it is first it will reach to here directly. Then what happens, this V1 this transferred and this is the velocity is more, again it will reaches here. Okay, and sometimes it will reaches faster than this one. So by using this one there are research and they have given some empirical equations also. So our main aim is to find out the H1, H2, H3. Understand our main aims. So some empirical equations are there, some we can derive also. We making a trapezoidal and like this, and with some angle and travel time, and we can draw a graph, and we can find out the H1, H2, H3, and some empirical equations are also given. Okay, so this is the method about the, here we can plot the graph where this graph shows the so in the y-axis arrival time, in the x-axis the distance from the source. Hope you are able to see. Here the y-axis arrival time, x is distance from the source. So like that, when you draw a plot, okay, at the interface you will get like this. And here what it says, the velocity in the any layer is equal to the reciprocal of the slope of the corresponding line. Okay. So the slope of the various lines are determined and the corresponding velocities are computed. So what we do is we'll compute all this velocity, and there are formulas. These are some empirical formulas, okay, given. So we know V1, V2, V3, and X, we know X1, X2 and other things. By using that one, we can find out the H1, H2 and H3 and so on. Understand? So this is all about the seismic refraction method. Okay, these are the equations are given. Empirical, here it is shown empirical. Here if you see, here this table gives velocity of a different strata. So to have an idea about velocity of different strata, so it says the granite will be having 4000 to the 6000 meter per second, sandstone, shale, hard clay, loose gravel and loose sand and so on. Okay, so harder material will have more velocities. So just to have an idea about it, and just if you see what are the limitation of this method. Okay, so what are the limitation of this method also it is given of this particular seismic refraction method. Yeah, but it says the method cannot be used. The method cannot be used if the hard layer with a greater seismic velocity overlies a soft layer. That means our assumption is with the depth it is increasing the velocity. So the method cannot be used if the hard layer with a greater seismic velocity overlays a soft layer with a smaller seismic velocity. The method cannot be used for areas covered with a concrete, asphalt, pavement, or any other artificial hard crust having a high seismic velocity. If the area contains some underground features such as buried conduits, pipelines, irregular dipping strata, and some water table and something, this method doesn't give the proper results. If the surface layer is frozen, the method cannot be successfully used, and it corresponds to in a case of hard strata overlying a soft strata. If you have this melting, ice layer frozen, then what happens? Velocity would be more there. The method requires sophisticated equipment and it's a little costly. Okay. For a proper interpretation of the seismic survey result, the service of an expert is required. I mean, those who are expert in this particular area has some experience, right? If at all something happens, in the sense it is showing some error or wrong reading, so that the experienced person can identify easily. Otherwise, what happens initially? We assume that there is a hard strata below that, and we'll start approving the project. Okay, so because this kind of survey is very required for a huge project in the sense like a dam or so on, because we should know that where is the hard strata and so on, because water is going to store in the reservoir and it will seepage may takes place. So this particular survey will give initial idea about particular area, whether we can go ahead with this particular project or so on. Okay, so these methods are very important. Next is electric resistivity method. I will show some videos also so that you will understand. So next is electric resistivity method. In this, here uh, we rely on the electrical resistivity, as the name suggests, on the resistivity of a soil. Electric resistivity of a conductor is expressed as, we know this, formula, where R is the electrical resistance in ohms, A is the area of a cross section of the conductor, L is the length of a conductor in centimeter, and rho is the electrical resistivity ohms per centimeter. Here it may be noted the electrical resistivity is the reciprocal of the conductor. The resistivity of a material depends upon the type of the material here, because we have so many types. Maybe we have hard rock, sand, clay, saturated clay, and so on. Its water content, it depends on the type of the material and the water content and the concentration of the dissolved ion. There may be some salt, ions, and so on. Okay, and many other factors. A rock and the dry soil have greater resistivity compared to the saturated clay. And tables gives the approximate value. So next page, so it will give the approximate values of all resistivity. Okay, this table. So type of the rock or material as we have shown, and the resistivity. So it will give some idea to us. In this electrical resistivity method, we have again two methods. One is electrical profiling method. Second one is electrical sounding method, something. Okay. In the electrical profiling method, this method also known as a resistivity mapping method, 4 electrodes are used at a constant spacing. That means these are the spacing. These are the electrodes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4 electrodes are used at a constant spacing A, as shown in the figure, to conduct the test. 4 electrodes, which are usually in the form of metal spikes, so we can use the metal spike, are driven into the ground to the two outer electrodes. Outer means these two. are the outer electrodes are known as current electrodes, and the two inner electrodes are called the potential electrodes. Okay, we use electrical profiling method. In this method, four electrodes totally. Two electrodes are known as the current electrodes, and the two are the inner electrodes are the potential electrodes. The mean resistivity of the stator is determined by applying the DC current to the outer electrodes and by measuring the voltage drop between the inner electrodes. Understand? So we measure the voltage drop. A current of 50 to 100 milliamp is usually applied, and the mean resistivity is given by this formula. Here rho we know, and I is the current supplied, and A is the spacing of the electrode, and V is the voltage drop. Understand? So we can find out the electrical resistivity here, and by using that we can easily find out the what are the strata available. So here what is happening is we can find out the resistivity. It mean resistive we can find out because we can go for different whole area we'll cover it, and the mean resistivity up to a depth of here what happens no, the depth depend on the spacing. So the mean resistivity up to a depth A below the ground surface, as the depth of the current penetration below the ground is approximately equal to the spacing of the electrode. That means we keep on changing the spacing, we will get the greater depth. The electrodes are moved in a group, and a different profiling lines are run across the area. The steps is repeated after changing the spacings again and determining the mean resistivity up to depth equal to the new spacing. We'll change the spacing, we cover the whole area, different profile lines will follow. Okay, the electrodes are moved in a group along with the different lines as before. The method is useful for establishing the boundaries between the different strata. The method is usually used for locating the very important sand gravel deposit within a fine grained soil. Suppose I want to find out the sand gravel, if any gravel or strata exists within a fine grained soil. So this method is very useful. Understand? So different profile we follow, we'll cover the whole area, we'll change the spacing. With the spacing, what happened, the current passes at a greater depth, and we can find out the mean resistivity. Next, electrical sounding method. So it is exactly the same. Only thing is we will have some fixed location. The electrical method, sounding method, in this method the electrode system consists of 4 electrodes, is expanded about a fixed location, says P. Some point will draw here, fixed location. The spacing is first setting is A1, which are increased to A2, then again increased to A3, and so on. We'll with a fixed point we'll increase those spacing. In the previous method, we profiling is different. Okay, the spacing thus increase gradually to a distance equal to the depth of explosion, the required. As the depth of current penetration is equal to the electrode spacing, the changes in the mean resistivity is correlated to the changes in the strata. The method is usually useful in studying the changes in the strata with increasing the depth at a point. Okay, the method can be indicate the subsurface variation when the hard strata overlies a soft strata. We can find out easily. Okay, it is used for a. It can also be used for locating the water table also. Understand? So so these methods, geophysical methods, are useful, and this method can be without digging a borehole, you can I mean, you can find out the you can do the soil exploration without digging a borehole, and so these are approximate method, and very famous also. So many equipments are available. uh, just I was looking some videos, okay, so that I thought I'll show some videos also. Just I have typed geophysical investigation method here. Here I could see some of the method. You can go, you can check, so many videos are available. Some videos are in Hindi, some videos are in English, and so on. Okay, yes, what you do is you find out how it will. Just I'm showing some animation videos.
New module of geophysical investigation. So this is to locate objects, is the electrical methods. We'll be starting with
Are you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, I will leave it to you, so you can watch so many videos, but it's some videos I'll.
a new module of geophysical investigation. So this is relatively sophisticated techniques in which we try to find what is beneath the earth's surface without actually excavating it. So we you might have studied about the sonar that they use in the ships to locate objects which are there inside the below the sea. The same thing, we use it to locate any a certain type of terrain or a certain type of rocks or anything that is underneath our and underneath the surface of the earth. So first in this geophysical investigation is the electrical methods. So the this is based on the fundamental fact that different materials of earth's crust have different electrical properties like resistivity, electrochemical activity, dielectrical constants, etc. Okay, and in electrical methods, the first one is self-potential method. So all those electrical methods that involve measurement of natural electrical potential of subsurface rocks are included under this heading. It is a very common fact that each and every body will have a natural potential. Some will have very low and some will have very high. In the bodies where there is a very high natural potential, the current can flow easily through that. In bodies where there is very low natural potential, the current flows very less. So, see, this is the natural potential of a human body. So actually, I did this testing in the electrical lab. So you can also try it. So this is what you get for every particular person, and the value will differ.
Right now, Udemy is having one of their biggest sales of the year, and their courses are up to 90% off. If you don't know Udemy, they're an online.
So based on that fact, we have this first self-potential method. And in this, what we do, let us say that this is a huge terrain and this is soil, and inside there is a rock bed. Okay. So what we do is that we put two electrodes here and then we connect them to voltmeter. Simple. The natural potential in this rock is due to the electrochemical reactions between the underground solution and surrounding rocks. So there may be some solutions inside, in solution meaning the groundwater, and when the groundwater gets mixed with the salts and everything, so that can act as an electrolyte, and when it reacts with this rock bed, it will give it a natural potential, and what you are measuring is just the voltage in between the two things. These electrodes are called as non-polarizing electrodes. Now, polarizing, this word means that something which causes some change, okay, something which alters the readings, that is called as polarizing. We have Polaroid sunglasses, so they do not allow the sunlight to come directly. They change its course, right, in the Polaroids. So what this non-polarizing electrode means, that these electrodes will not change the value of this voltage, or they will not affect the value of the voltage that we are getting here. So what exactly are these non-polarizing electrodes? We'll see. If we use metal plates as electrodes, they develop their own natural potential due to reaction with the ground moisture. So, for understanding what non-polarizing electrodes are, we will first understand what are polarizing electrodes are. So, if we use metal plates here, then it will react with the ground moisture and it will form its own natural potential. So, that will not give you the true reading which we want. Right? So, this affects the reading, but obvious. Thus, we need some electrodes which do not have their own potential to disturb the readings. Such electrodes are called as non-polarizing electrodes. Non-polarizing electrodes means something which will not affect the results. So, what are these exactly? You can see here they are generally ceramic pots in which we have copper sulfate solution, and inside we have a copper rod. So these are your non-polarizing electrodes, and because of the ceramic pots and all, they will not generate their own potential. Now this method is generally used to detect presence of minerals which have a very high positive or negative potential, like graphite, magnetite, pyrite, etc. So these minerals are said to have a very high positive or either negative potential. Both will give you high readings on the voltage meter, and that will help you in ascertaining that whether any such mineral is lying below the surface or not. Second is potential drop method. So in this method, an external electrical current is induced in the ground through the electrodes at certain distance. The behavior of flow lines of the electrical current is directly related to the nature of subsurface material. In the previous method of self-potential method, we did not induce any external current. The whatever the voltage that we measured, it was the natural potential of that body itself. But in potential drop method, we have to induce a current, external current, and then we will have to see how that current is behaving in the subsurface material or in the soil. So consider this ground surface in which there is a small rock body that we intend to find. So in potential drop method, what we'll do, there are two primary electrodes which are inserted 6 to 7 meters apart, and in between these primary electrodes will be passing an external current. Okay, so a current is passed through it. Let's say that these are the flow lines of that current. We are forcing that current through the subsurface. Positions of these primary electrodes will remain fixed, that is, we won't be disturbing the position of them. Then there are two search electrodes at varying distance which are used to find points of equal potential. So these are search electrodes, and whenever there is a current passed, there is a field generated around the electrode. On both the electrodes, a field would be generated, and this field, as you can see, is circular in nature in the depth, as well as if you see the plan view. If this is the electrode here, like this, from plan view I am showing. Okay. Then the currents would be again in circular manner to it. This way. Okay, so they will be as concentric circles even in the plan, and here also they are in circular manner. It is assumed that if the ground is uniform, and the potential difference would assume a regular value. So if there is nothing as such, like this rock or nothing is present, then we can find the value of this potential, and it will be a regular value which can be found out using some formulas. But if there is a mineral of low conductivity or high conductivity, then the potential difference observed would be of irregular value. So what exactly we are doing is, let's say that at depth D1, the regular potential value is 20 volts. It's just an arbitrary value, nothing calculated. And from both the sides we'll test, from this side as well as from this side. let's say at depth D2, the regular potential value is 30 volts. Okay, at this depth. The same you will see again here at this point, because it is continuing this way, right? So whatever value you are getting here, the same value you will be getting at this point as well. At depth D3, that is at this point, the regular potential value is 40 volts. As you can see here, at depth D3, the regular potential value is 40 volts, but what you are getting here is 5 volts. Okay. So we record much lower value of potential. This is because rocks have less conductivity and less potential value. This would give us the depth of possible bedrock. So at whatever depth or whatever distance this search electrode is there, at the same depth we may get a bedrock. So if we plot a graph here, then at D1, let's say the potential was 20, then at D2 it was 30, D3 it came down, and then D4 again it went up. So this is giving you the potential. This is giving you the depth at which there could be a possibility of finding a mineral or a bedrock. Okay, so this was it for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we'll be learning about some more electrical methods.
So this is one more method, and I'm pasting that next video. Okay, next related to seismic method. You can watch this one now. Already time is 10:10, so this you can watch. And with that, we are able to finish our first chapter. Here, in the first chapter, what we'll do is, if you recall, okay, after that, this is the soils report in the sense, after doing all investigation, we will prepare the report. Subsoil investigation report. Okay, here what we are doing, this is a sand, dense sand, gravel, and so on, N values, Q values, water content, liquid limit, plastic limit, so on, like that we will give with the depth of 10 or whatever maybe. So generally we prepare this report at the final stage. That means suppose someone calls me, since I'm a geotechnical engineer, or want to construct an airport or a train, I mean railway station, anything, building, high-rise building, I will go there. I do some preliminary surveys and classify the soil and do some method. We have this SPT, we have CPT, we have plate load test, we'll conduct and find out the bearing capacity, and I'll do some bore holes, okay, borings. Then I will say that I'll prepare a report that these are the soil condition and all. Suppose the top layer is loose soil, then I will suggest that we should go to the pile foundations where hard strata are available. If the soil is very good at shallow depth, then we'll suggest the shallow foundations, and we'll tell them that these are the bearing capacities, and you can construct this much, you can apply this much load, okay, and settlement and so on. So this is the final stage of this first chapter, that is called soil exploration. Okay. So with that, what I'll do is I'll stop today, and maybe next class we can start the other chapter. Okay, is that clear? Shall we stop today? Already have downloaded the item. Sharon, I'm stopping today. Okay, you watch that video.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.